Hi everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to our first installment of the A to Z of plants. The first plant we're going to be covering today is the Alocasia, and I'm really excited about this because I love Alocasias and I have a few here that I can show you. There are 79 species of Alocasia and they're native to tropical and subtropical Asia and Eastern Australia, but they're cultivated in lots of places around the world. Alocasias are known for their long stalks or petioles, and they can grow up to 3 feet tall. Their leaves can also get quite large as well, so they make a great foliage plant. Alocasias also do flower, but it is really rare, especially in an indoor environment. As with any plant, when caring for them, you want to keep their natural environment in mind. So with Alocasia, because they are native to more tropical and subtropical environments, they're usually found more so towards the forest floor. So when you're wanting to put them inside or even outside, keep that in mind when choosing a position. They do very well with bright, indirect light. The key word there being indirect. If you put them in direct light, they're very likely going to burn, and I know this from experience. When thinking of temperature, you're going to want to keep them in a warmer environment, nothing too cold. In my experience, they're not super frost tolerant, so do keep that in mind when looking for the right position to put your Alocasia. As a general rule, I like to keep it above 16 degrees if I can. Alocasias do prefer a more humid environment, so if you don't have a humid spot to put them, maybe consider investing in a humidifier. You can even look at a cheaper alternative like a pebble tray to put underneath them, fill it with water, and that way the evaporating water will create a more humid environment. Alternately, you can get a spray bottle. I like to mix my plants with a spray bottle as well. It's a more inexpensive way to introduce some humidity into the air. Even though Alocasias do prefer a more humid environment, when you're watering them, please do take care not to leave them sitting in soggy, moist soil. You do want to keep it a little wet, a little moist, but you definitely don't want it soggy or completely wet. I personally have most of my Alocasias in terracotta pots, both glazed and unglazed. So ones that I do feel can be more susceptible to root rot, I do keep in a terracotta pot, and I do ensure that all the pots that I put them in do have good drainage. One thing to keep an eye out for is sweating. That is when you'll actually see drops of water come off the edges of the leaves. That's also known as guttation, and that's essentially the plant expelling that excess moisture and water. So if you do see this in your plants, do take care when you're watering it next time to make sure that the soil has had a chance to dry out a little bit. I did touch on before that these plants don't necessarily do so well in frosty conditions, so do keep that in mind. I haven't seen many that will survive a really cold frost. Do keep in mind if you are artificially heating your home that can dry out the air. So if you are doing that, just keep a humidity monitor. I get a really cheap one from Amazon. I think they're about $20. It'll give you a good idea of the temperature and the humidity, and that way you can keep an eye on it as well. Having said that, a lot of my plants I have taken time to harden to my home conditions, and I do generally keep them in spots where I know that there is a bit more humidity, a bit more warmth, just to reduce the risk of them getting sick or reacting poorly to those conditions. You can propagate Alocasia, and the best way I found in doing this is through division or by pups. Now what you can see here on this Alocasia dragon scale are these small little shoots coming up through here. These are actually new growth or pups coming through as their own separate plant. So if you're looking at propagating a plant through division, essentially you're going to want to remove the plant from the pot, get as much dirt and soil and debris off those roots as you can. You can do this just by rinsing with a hose or even in your kitchen sink if you've got good plumbing. I personally wouldn't recommend it as a common practice. From that point, you're going to want to gently remove it from the plant. You'll actually see that the pups will have grown their own little roots. So try and keep as many of those as intact and damage free as you can. From there, you know, whether you need to cut it using a disinfected knife or disinfected scissors, or even just slowly breaking it away if you feel like it's not going to cause too much damage. I generally like to give it another rinse after that, just to wash off any kind of bacteria, anything that could have gotten to the cut or the raw bit where you've broken it away. From that point, you can pop them in water, moss, soil, leca, really anything that you'd like, and you've got a whole new plant. I have 3 humble jungle tips for caring for Alocasias. The first one is to dust the leaves regularly because they do have larger leaves, and especially I noticed with my Sabrina the leaves are kind of concave, so they do collect a lot of dust. That's going to interrupt and slow down the photosynthesis and the ability for the plant to really take in the energy. So make sure, whether it's, you know, once a week, once a month, that you're gently just going over those leaves with, whether it's water and a soft cloth. I personally use a blend of different things. I use some water, some neem oil, and just a little bit of dishwashing liquid. I find that works really well, and also brings me on to my next point, which is that you're going to want to keep an eye out for spider mites. I have recently experienced my first outbreak of spider mites with my alocasias, and it has not been a fun experience. They're so small, so often by the time they've actually really taken hold, you don't even know that they're there. By using neem oil in the mix to wipe down the leaves, you're actually taking a really proactive approach in trying to reduce any pests. Also keep an eye on the backs of the leaves. I have noticed that they tend to really like to hide around the backs. So keep an eye out there and make sure when you wipe over your leaves that you're also wiping over the backs as well. In dealing with spider mites, if you do get them, I found that mix works really well. I've been using it once a week on all of the leaves on my plants just to really prevent them jumping over, or however I'm actually not even sure how they travel, but just to make sure they don't travel to any of my other plants. Now I'm also going to show you what spider mite damage looks like so you can identify it if you see it. This is one of my alocasias that unfortunately did have some damage from the spider mites. It's really awful. But what you want to look for, what I've found, is that if you look kind of in this most concave part of the leaf, you'll actually see these little dots. Now what that means is that the spider mites have built a web on it. And my understanding of how it works is they kind of just sap all the life out of the plant, and it's not fun to watch. To give you a really harsh example, this isn't an alocasia. This, you can't even tell what it is anymore. This was a Calathea dotty that actually was so far gone from the spider mites, I'm pretty sure I've lost it. The leaves have just curled up and completely died and gone brown and really gross. This one looks like he's pretty much done. This one is a little greener, so I'm hoping even with the absence of a functioning leaf that he might pop a new shoot and I might be able to save him, but look, it's not looking positive, guys. So yeah, really keep an eye out for spider mites. They are so nasty. The last tip I have for you is that when you buy your alocasia, especially if you've bought it from a nursery, a lot of the time I find that they're in this really dense, mossy kind of mix. And in my experience, that moss is either completely soaking and saturated and waterlogged, or it is crisp and dry and like it hasn't seen moisture in forever. I recommend when you're getting them home to completely remove this substrate from the plant. Put it in something that drains a little bit better. I find that those mixtures, like I said, you either get the really, really dry or the gross waterlogged. Either way, I haven't seen any alocasias react well to this long term. So it is something you want to keep in mind when you are repotting your alocasia. Maybe use a different mix. As I said, I do have a lot of alocasias, so I'm going to show you just a couple of them today. I do have some bigger ones upstairs that are just a nightmare to try and get down, but I have got a few here. These are really my favorites, if I'm honest, so I'm going to introduce you. The first alocasia I'm going to show you is my Alocasia Dragon Scale. He is absolutely hands down one of my favorite plants, and I think it's pretty obvious why when you see these stunningly gorgeous leaves. Whoops. The backs of the leaves are also really beautiful. You get this dark kind of browny, blacky veining through the back. And I just absolutely love the interesting leaves. I mean, how can you walk past that and not love that? That is so cool. The next one I'm going to show you is one of my favorites. He is a little bit more popular now, so I am seeing him come up a lot more in big box stores and also a lot more in my local nurseries as well. This is an Alocasia amazonica. These guys can get so big and their leaves are absolutely stunning. They're a really, really dark, deep green, and then you get that white, silvery veining throughout, providing that beautiful contrast. The backs of the leaves, and I love the back of a leaf, the backs of the leaves are also super interesting as well. I hope my camera is picking up that wonderful patterning that you get in through there that's a lot darker than the front of the leaf, but also, again, super interesting. You can also see that through here that I am getting a new leaf. There are actually two plants in here. I did get a smaller one and a larger one and combined them, and they seem to be, like most plants, happier together. So yeah, I'm really happy with how he's going. These leaves I do expect to get quite big as well once he grows a little bit larger as well. And as I mentioned before, you can see here, this isn't the best example, I do have a better one, but this very long stem or petiole, which is again distinctive of an Alocasia. This one is similar to the last one I showed you. Here's an Alocasia bambino, so similar to the Amazonica, but a lot smaller when you see the leaves. They are beautiful and long. This one I have trimmed a little bit because he did have a few days in some not so great humidity a little while ago and he did crisp up. But as you can see, the rest of the leaves are super happy. They're very cute. And you do get a slight bit of that patterning on the back similar to the Amazonica, not as strong and definitely not as vibrant as the Amazonica, but it is still there. I keep him in this gorgeous little pot combo that I absolutely love. I got this from Banksia Nursery in Baronia. It was about $6 for the pot and saucer, and I think it's really cute. So just side note, super cute pot and saucer, love it. The next one I'm going to show you is one of my first Alocasias. I absolutely adore him. He is an Alocasia Black Velvet. You can see here from his name that he has these deep green, very, very dark, very velvety leaves, and this lovely white distinct veining right through the leaf. And if you look closer, there is a lot more patterning through the darker part of the leaf as well. They are absolutely beautiful. One of the hazards I found of having velvety leaf plants though is the fact that they do need to be wiped over quite often. And oh my god, I think this guy has spider mites. Yay! We're gonna get right on that after the video. But regardless, let's just take one more look at him. He is absolutely stunning. His leaves are starting to get really, really big and he's starting to grow up a little bit more, so that's super exciting for me. Now this is, I don't even know if he's gonna fit in the frame. I'm gonna kind of stick him back here because he is very long. Like I said, with these plants, you do get those very distinctive long stems or petioles, and he is a no exception. He is no exception. I really love the shape of these leaves. I like the color. I just like everything about them. I wish he was a little less leggy, but again, that's one of the things that you have with Alocasias. They are quite stemmy. It looks like he wants me to eat him now, which is weird. Similar to the Saurian, I have this Alocasia zebrina. I'm actually going to put him back here too because this is getting a little awkward. Similar to the Saurian, he's got these beautiful, really big heart-shaped leaves. They will get bigger with age. And the thing about the zebrina that I like the most, and it really is the thing that is most distinctive about them, is, please excuse the pole that's helping hold him up, you'll see in here through the petiole you have this beautiful pattern, and that is where you get the zebrina name from. You will notice with the zebrina, the Saurian, and also some other Alocasias that they do have these thicker stems. When you see thicker petioles like this, it is generally an indication that they hold a lot more moisture in the stem. So do keep that in mind when you are watering them, is that they do store quite a bit there already. So if you find that the soil only is kind of just just starting to dry out on the top, maybe give it a few more days before you water him again. Thank you so much for watching. If there's any more plants you'd like me to cover or anything I missed in this video, please drop a comment down below and let me know. Don't forget to hit subscribe, it'll keep you notified when we drop the next video in this series.